Um, you could use Evelyn. Wow. Oh, honey. That's a hard one. Um, I'm a trauma survivor, and I was just trying to survive my childhood. Listen, my story is so crazy. I'm willing to give you all of it. It is deeper than you have any idea. Okay, and I also want to say that I go by she, her, and I am queer. I'm a little more incognito because I'm so femme, but, you know. So I was raped from the age of 3 to 8, and I left home when I was 13. I was homeless. I had twins when I was 17. I got into prostitution when I was 18 to take care of my kids. I didn't even know that that shit existed. My mother was bipolar. My father tried to raise me the best that he could. He was a civil rights activist. So I always knew that I wanted to help people, but I knew that I had to help myself first. And so I went through drug addiction, I went through sexual abuse, I went through trauma. I married a man who I met who was my client because I wanted to get out of prostitution. I was living in a homeless shelter in Spanish Harlem when I was 15, and then I got pregnant. I got my GED, and then I was always in community college. I knew that education would be the way that I would get out of my situation. You know, being very young with kids. And I was really pulled into that sex worker life because I was making $400 to $500 an hour. I was being sent into Atlantic City and all these other places by limousine to see big people. And I knew I needed a better life than that. And so I kept going to school. I became an EMT. So I was responding to medical emergencies, and I was sleeping in the firehouse with my boots on, and, you know, it was actually pretty great. I knew I wanted to be a nurse for a very long time. And it's funny because prostitution is the oldest line of work, and so is nursing. You know, it's caring for people in different ways. You know, like, it's kind of hard to explain. Even before I went to nursing school, I knew I wanted to be a hospice nurse. I was called to the bedside of 4 friends whose mothers were dying. And it was like a totally natural thing for me to be holding space while they're about to transition out of this world. And it's so fucking important because we're all dying. And if we don't talk about it, it's going to be worse. And COVID has been crippling for us. Yeah. And that was so much to tell you, and I'm sure your little mind is like, what the fuck? Before I met Olivia, the woman that I'm dating here, I was so isolated, and it was between the hospital and home. I have severe asthma, and I was so scared. You know, I'm still so scared every time I go to work. We don't have enough PPE, we still don't. I have a friend with COVID now. I've lost people with COVID. We have, just so much grief and, so much fear and sadness and anger at our administration and our lack of leadership and, just not feeling protected. Being scared for all my black and brown brothers and sisters and friends. I live in this mostly white, new building. I've got my big Black Lives Matter sign outside my door, and then the lady across from me, a white, gay psychologist, also made a sign. And there are probably about 5, at least, queer people in the building. So we have our little island of misfits, like queer, funky people that are here. It didn't used to be life-threatening for us to go to work, right? All of these families, in these beautiful family rooms, and everything's wonderful, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. And there's only one visitor every 24 hours. And in the middle of COVID, our patients weren't allowed to have their families with them. And they were dying alone. And so we were bringing in little iPads so that their families could say goodbye to them. And having people that were downstairs that were begging to come up because their child was dying or their mother was dying. And I had to explain, I'm sorry, you can't come in. It's been crippling. I come out of the hospital, I drive down South Street, and I see all these people out partying. And they're packed in outdoor areas, they're getting drunk, they're acting like everything's great. I don't mind being alone. In fact, I love living alone, but I have felt isolated and extremely lonely. Every time that I go into my father's house, I'm choosing that I want to be with him and hoping I don't get him sick. He's got pulmonary fibrosis, and that means that his lungs are scarring up and getting smaller. He has no lung capacity. He's on oxygen, he's on morphine, he's on Ativan. And so I'm always going in there just so afraid that I'm going to infect him. And then also wanting so badly to be with him. And so not touching him. And that has been a really hard thing. Making the choice that I still want to go to work. I mean, every day, I know that if I were to get it, I would have a very high probability of not surviving, right? Because I have chronic lung disease. I'm that person that talks to everybody and wants to make sure everybody's okay. So when I walk into the hospital, everybody's like, Ev, what's going on? We're all family. And we either are going to work this out or we're all going to perish together. Like, it's really that simple, We've ruined our planet. This is an environmental emergency on top of institutional racism, on top of our administration being so corrupt, on top of COVID and the mass unemployment and just the injustice. And, yeah, this is a crazy time for our country. I have said it's the divided states of embarrassment. And that's really kind of what I feel right now. We live in the divided states of embarrassment. I have met Olivia, which is amazing. And so I hadn't been touched or hugged or kissed or anything for, 5 or 6 months. So to finally be in someone's arms. I see her twice a week. Tuesdays and Saturdays are our day. I want to take care of you. I'm going to cook for you. I'm going to back rub you. I'm going to do whatever you need, get in my tub. So I have someone that's taking care of me. And I rarely let people do that. I hope that we have learned that we are all one, and that when we hurt someone else, we hurt ourselves. I hope that we can learn that our planet is dying, and that when our planet dies, so do we. I hope that we can have a more just and peaceful world. I want a better world for all of us. I want there to be a world where we have healthcare for everyone, where it's a right and not a privilege. And that we all have to help each other. I hope that we can honor our planet and that we can learn that everything we need is here. We're fucking up. We've got a lot to clean up.